Not every story in the Pokémon world is about battles, champions, or legends written in the history books. Some stories are whispered, passed quietly from trainer to trainer in hushed voices, as if saying them too loudly might wake something best left asleep. This is one of those stories. They say there is a place in Kanto where the wind always carries a chill, no matter the season. A place where the bells of the tower ring softly in the night, even when no one is there to pull the ropes. A place where the line between the living and the departed grows thin. You know its name already, Lavender Town. But what you may not know is that Lavender Town guards a secret far older than the Pokémon Tower, far older than the graves that line its hill. A secret that only a handful of people have ever claimed to glimpse. A hidden village. A village that appears only to the lost, or the weary, or perhaps to those who listen closely enough to the whispers in the mist. Tonight, I'll share with you the tale of that village, and the traveler who swore he walked its streets. Lavender Town rests quietly at the base of the eastern mountains of Kanto. Unlike the bustling cities of Saffron or Celadon, Lavender has never been a place of commerce or excitement. Its streets are narrow, its homes simple, and its nights unusually still. When you first arrive, what you notice is the sound, or rather, the absence of it. No chatter of crowds, no rumble of traffic, not even the chirping of Pidgey that fill the skies of other towns. Instead, there is only the soft sigh of the wind, rolling down from the mountains, weaving its way through the wooden rooftops and the narrow alleys. And, if you listen closely, the occasional chime, a faint bell, carried on the breeze from the Pokémon Tower that stands tall over the town. Its bells are not rung often by human hands, yet somehow the sound still drifts across Lavender at odd hours, as if the tower itself remembers something we've forgotten. The townsfolk are kind but reserved. They speak with a quiet respect, especially when it comes to the tower and the Pokémon who rest there. To them, Lavender is not just a home. It is a threshold, a place where goodbyes are whispered, where grief is laid gently down, and where the bonds between people and Pokémon are honored, even beyond death. But if you linger long enough, you might notice something else. The way the fog curls a little thicker at the edge of town. The way the shadows stretch longer, even when the sun still hangs in the sky. The way travelers speak of odd sights, lanterns flickering in the distance, voices calling their names, footsteps just behind them on empty paths. To most, these are simply stories, the natural result of a place so closely tied to memory and mourning. But to some, they are signs, clues pointing to something hidden, just beyond the veil of the everyday world. For generations, Lavender has carried a rumor of a place that lies just outside its borders. A place no map records, no guidebook mentions. A village said to appear only to those it chooses. A village where the dead and the living once shared their nights together in peace. And so the story begins, with the myth of the lost village. Long before Lavender Town became known as the resting place of Pokémon, long before the tower was built, the hills and valleys of this region held something else. A village, small, secluded, and unlike any other in Kanto. According to old stories, this village was not carved out by ambition or by conquest. It was built as a refuge, a place where people and ghost-type Pokémon lived together, not in fear, not in battle, but in harmony. The villagers believed ghost types were not to be feared, but to be respected. To them, Ghastly and Haunter were not omens of misfortune, but guardians, protectors of the boundary between this world and the next. They told children that the shadows at the edge of their homes were not hiding monsters, but watching over them, ensuring they were never truly alone. Every year at the turning of the seasons, the village held a festival. It was called the Festival of Lanterns. When the first stars of autumn rose in the sky, the people would light hundreds of paper lanterns, each one carrying a flame, soft and golden. They would set them along the paths, in the trees, even float them upon the streams that ran through the village. And the ghost Pokémon would answer. Drawn by the light, they drifted into the village in greater numbers than ever. Ghastly floating silently above the rooftops, Haunter drifting playfully between children, and even Gengar sitting comfortably at the edge of the fires, watching with wide, gleaming eyes. The festival was not one of mourning, but of joy. The lanterns were meant to guide the souls of those who had passed, to show them the way home, if only for one night. Families would leave a lantern glowing at their door, a sign that loved ones, human and Pokémon alike, were welcome to visit again. And it was said that sometimes they did. Figures seen in the lamplight, voices of parents, siblings, old friends, calling softly from the shadows. Pokémon that had long since passed, bounding joyfully through the village streets, as though no time had passed at all. For generations, the village thrived this way, quietly, peacefully, far removed from the larger world. But then, as the story goes, it vanished. No one agrees on how or why. Some say the mountains swallowed it, a landslide burying it forever beneath the earth. Others believe the villagers simply faded, following the Pokémon they had devoted their lives to, crossing the boundary they had lived so close to for so long. And still others whisper that the village didn't disappear at all. It simply learned to hide. To this day, there are those who swear that, on the right night, if you walk the mountain paths beyond Lavender Town, you can still see it, a glow in the fog, the faint sound of laughter, of bells, of music drifting through the trees. And if you follow, you may find yourself walking streets that no longer exist, welcomed by people who should no longer be alive. Most who hear this call it a bedtime story, but one trainer claimed to see it with their own eyes, and it is their tale that survives as the clearest glimpse we may ever have of the lost village of Lavender. The story begins with the traveler, a young trainer who had set out on their journey long before fame or fortune had ever crossed their mind. They were not searching for badges nor glory. They traveled simply for the joy of walking, of seeing the world, of meeting the Pokémon who lived in the wilds. And it was this wandering spirit that led them one evening to the mountain paths beyond Lavender Town. The sun had long dipped below the horizon, and the trainer found themselves caught in a fog thicker than any they had known. The path wound upward, disappearing and reappearing with each step, and the silence of the night was so complete it pressed on their ears. It was then they saw it. A light, faint at first, like a star caught low in the mist. Then another and another, until the fog seemed to glow with the flicker of dozens of tiny lanterns. The trainer thought it must be some kind of gathering, perhaps a village festival. Curious, and with nowhere else to go, they followed the lights. And slowly, the village revealed itself. Homes of wood and stone, simple but warm, their windows glowing with the same golden light as the lanterns that lined the streets. Figures moved gracefully through the mist. Villagers, dressed in old-style robes, their faces calm, their movements unhurried, as if they had been expecting a guest all along. The trainer was welcomed without hesitation. A smile here, a nod there, a hand reaching out to offer food, warm rice, roasted vegetables, even a place by the fire. Pokémon drifted through the air around them, ghastly humming softly, Haunter laughing in low, playful tones, while a Gengar sat cross-legged near the flames, its red eyes reflecting like coals. Yet strangely, there was no fear, no hostility, no unease. The trainer wrote later that it felt as though they had stepped into a dream, one where the boundaries between life and death had been gently folded away. The villagers told stories as they ate together. Stories of lanterns guiding loved ones home. Stories of nights where the whole village would shine brighter than the stars, as families reunited across worlds for just a few fleeting hours. The trainer listened, enraptured, the soft murmur of voices and the glow of the fire lulling them into a state between waking and sleep. They remembered little after that, only that the warmth of the village seemed to wrap around them like a blanket. They closed their eyes in that place, and when they opened them again, everything had changed. The trainer awoke not to the warmth of the village, but to the damp chill of the mountainside. The fire was gone. The laughter, the voices, the music, gone. They lay on a patch of grass, the morning fog still clinging to the earth. The golden lanterns had vanished. The village had vanished. Confused, the trainer stumbled back to Lavender Town, trying to find someone who might explain what had happened. They spoke of the villagers, of the food, of the Pokémon who had sat so close and yet brought no fear. But the townsfolk only shook their heads. There is no village beyond the mountain, they said. There never has been. Still, the trainer insisted. They told the story again and again, describing every detail, the glow of the lanterns, the faces of the villagers, the way the fog seemed to breathe with light. And always, the townsfolk gave the same reply. You must have dreamed it. No such place exists. At last, the trainer gave up. Perhaps they thought it truly had been nothing more than a dream, a trick of exhaustion, and the restless energy of Lavender's haunted hills. But when they returned to their pack, they found something waiting. A lantern, simple, paper-thin, its wooden frame delicate as bone. It glowed faintly, even in the light of day, not with fire, not with electricity, but with something softer, something deeper. And though the trainer swore they had never touched a lantern that night, it was warm in their hands. The trainer kept the lantern for the rest of their life. Some say it still exists, hidden away, passed down quietly among collectors of strange relics. Others say it was buried with them, the flame never truly extinguished. What is certain is this: the story did not die. For each time the tale is told, the lost village is remembered, and perhaps, in remembering, we give it the strength to return, if only for a moment, if only for those willing to step into the mist. And so, the tale of the lost village of Lavender drifts on the wind, like the faint ring of the tower's bells, like the glow of a lantern in the fog. Perhaps it was real. Perhaps it was nothing more than a dream. But in the end, does it matter? For myths live in the space between truth and memory. They remind us that the world is bigger, stranger, and more mysterious than we can ever fully know. And maybe, just maybe, they remind us that those we've lost are never as far away as we think. So, the next time you find yourself in Lavender Town, walking the mountain paths in the quiet of night, listen closely, watch the mist, and if you see a flicker of golden light in the distance, follow it. Who knows? You may just find yourself welcomed into a place that does not exist, and yet has never truly disappeared. Thank you for listening to this story. and may the glow of the lanterns guide your dreams tonight.